Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today with a new Hog Rider deck to fit the new meta. The update is here, guys, and by the way, are you loving this crown challenge as much as I am? I wish they would add it to the game on a permanent basis. I think it's like the best feature we've seen in quite a while, but that's not what we're going to be here talking about today. It's actually going to be Diego's deck here that is really new meta in the truest sense of the word. It has the Tornado, it has the Elite Barbarians, both saw a significant buff, and other than that, it's kind of a basic standard Hog Rider deck, but he's been having a ton of success with it all day. He just won his second grand challenge with this deck. Now, Diegob is a really good player, and he's also one of our best deck creators in the entire Elite Gaming clan family. So when I saw him having success with this deck, I said, man, I gotta have you on. If I can't get you on voice, I need you to share some replays and share your tips with this deck so we can share it with my viewers, because I know you guys are gonna love this deck. It's something new, it's something fresh, and today we're gonna watch a few replays. We're gonna keep the episode relatively short, maybe around 10 minutes, 3 replays, and what I wanna do is really just cover the basic strategy advice that's gonna help you succeed with this deck, as I always like to do. So let's kind of get right to it, talk about all the cards. First, we should probably discuss the fact that it has 3 spells, and you can see them all in Diego's cards right now. It has Fireball, which is a great hog combo. You know, Fireball can be used in a ton of different utility in this meta right now. You have the Log, which is still amazing. The Log, definitely one of the best all-around legendary cards in the game. And of course, you have Tornado. So Tornado saw a decent buff, actually a really good buff. The radius increased on Tornado, and also the pull effect, the strength of the pull has gone up 10%. So that's definitely a significant buff. Whenever you hear 10% or more in Clash Royale, it usually means that's a really big buff, even though it doesn't always seem that way. But anyway, the Tornado is going to be used both offensively and defensively. Tornado is actually now a good combination card with the Hog Rider, and Elite Barbarians are also an offensive weapon, as you can see here. Diego, sensing his opponent had an elixir deficit, and then he played the Elite Barbarians right at the bridge. But what I want you guys to walk out of today's video with is a real good understanding on not just how to use the deck, but how to capitalize on the combination of the Tornado and the Hog Rider, and also how to use the new and improved Elite Barbarians, seeing both a buff to their health and their DPS, how to use those guys with success, and how to avoid common mistakes. So that's going to be the goal of today's video, and let's go ahead and get right into the advice that I got straight from Diegob. So let's start with Elite Barbarians. So Elite Barbarians, they got a decent buff to both HP and DPS. When I say decent, I mean a pretty huge buff. So now they've gone from like a novelty new card to actually really viable inside the game. They're definitely strong. I would consider them now adding into any sort of a meta deck just to give them a try, see what you think of them. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So the Elite Barbarians in this deck, although we just saw them in an offensive role, primarily in this deck and really in every deck, they're going to be mainly a defensive card. They can stop big tanks really quickly. They deal a lot of damage now, and they deal very well with glass cannons as well. They can also be turned into a really good counter push, and that's really one of the keys to success for this deck. A counter push with Elite Barbarians on defense can go really well with an opposite lane push with the Hog Rider. So essentially, defend in one lane with the Elite Barbarians, and then cycle the Hog into the other lane. That's going to leave your opponent in a really difficult situation on how to defend against that. So Elite Barbarians, very fast moving, very strong defensively, opposite lane push with the Hog Rider. Definitely a very good offensive combination. So as we go ahead and hop into the next match here, I will provide a little bit of play-by-play so we can pay attention to the matches in the background, but honestly, this is one of those videos that it might actually behoove you to put me on mute for a little bit, or to rewatch it with me on mute after you've heard all the tips, and just really pay attention to Diegob's gameplay, because he has a really good grasp on how to use these cards effectively, especially the new cards. So here to start out this this match, I can tell you right away that Diegob is going to go against an opponent with Elite Barbarians as well. And pay attention to your left lane here, how effective one Elite Barbarian is at taking down that giant, and then Diegob goes ahead and combos it with a tornado, pulling the giant away. And look at on the right there, his Elite Barbarian that he split to begin with got to the tower, and look at how much damage it did. One unchecked split Elite Barbarian can do a lot of damage and really do a good job at punishing your opponent if they're not smart enough to defend. You have to defend against even a single Elite Barbarian, especially now. So let's talk a little bit about the tornado. So tornado is mainly used offensively. So Elite Barbarians use defensively, tornado mainly used offensively in this deck. So you're gonna go ahead and combo it with the Hog Rider only if you can get an even trade, i.e. like a 3 elixir minions or a skeleton army. So basically you just want to get your value back out of that tornado. So you can also use it defensively, as you saw Diegob do at the beginning of this match. It's just a great spell to use in a pinch, and it synergizes very well with the archers and the mega minions. So overall, this deck, if we just take a step back from the new cards, the Elite Barbarians and Tornado, I say new, I really mean just new in the meta, because I do hypothesize that these cards will play an important role in the current meta. So take a little step back here, let's talk about the overall pace of this deck. Although it is, of course, a deck with a few fast-moving cards in it, Diegob likes to play this deck passive-aggressive, he says. Basically, the biggest mistakes you're going to run into when playing a deck like this is feeling like you always want to push the tempo, and that is sometimes a mistake. So Diegob said the biggest common mistake would be extending your hand, leaving you with no elixir to defend, especially because Elite Barbarians are 6 elixir, and guess what? As we already discussed, those are your best defensive weapon. So this deck actually really shines at beatdown decks and at zap bait decks, and of course against siege decks, as you saw on the first replay. It does struggle with cycle chip decks though, so Diegob said just be sure to know your opponent. When you're playing against a cycle chip deck, for example like a minor rocket deck with a lot of defensive cards, you're gonna have to be ready to defend, so don't play too aggressively. Again here guys, if you know your opponent is at full elixir, be very, very cautious. You don't want to play the Elite Barbarians offensively if your opponent has more than 6 elixir, so definitely keep that in mind. So great combinations with this deck. We're going to go ahead and throw on one more replay for you guys, and then I want to get into some of the best combinations you can possibly have for your win condition in this deck. So this third replay here, we're going to go against one of these kind of bait decks that Diegob actually really enjoys playing against with this deck. You can see the opponent has the Goblin Barrel, they have the Skarmy, they have the Minion Horde that just popped up as their 6th card in their deck there. So let's see how Diegob tackles this deck as we talk a little bit about the combinations. So obviously pairing your Ice Golem with a Hog and having all 3 spells to help your Hog make it to the tower is going to be your best offensive surge, despite, with the exception rather, of playing the Elite Barbarians as they counter and then comboing it with a double lane push. But you can see right here, Fireball easily takes out all these troops. Mini P.E.K.K.A not even going to get a hit in because of very nice Ice Golem placement there by Diegob in that left lane. Meanwhile, chipped away very nicely at that left tower himself. So splitting your Elite Barbarians is also a great tool for keeping the pressure on your opponent and making them decide in a split second, do they want to defend or do they want to attack? Always making your opponent make split-second decisions opens the window for your opponent to make split-second mistakes. So that is always a good idea. If you split your Elite Barbarians, if you're sitting at full elixir, you have nothing else to play, you know your opponent might be high in elixir or able to defend your Hog push, you might want to go ahead and split your Elite Barbarians. Just be careful, don't overplay them, you have to save them on defense, especially if you're going against a big beatdown deck. They do a great job, guys. Have you tried the new Elite Barbarians against the Golem? I mean, they tear down that Golem, and that's the Tornado in action right there, guys. That's when you want to use it. Use the Tornado when you can combo it with a Hog to take down something of equal or less elixir value, such as the Skeleton Army. And now, 2 minutes into the match, Diegob's towers are largely untouched, and he just got the tower down using that Hog Rider Tornado combo. So Ice Golem, Hog Rider, Tornado, that's a great weapon. And then in overtime, when you can throw in the Fireball, talk about a winning combination. So this deck is really full of different types of combinations, and you have those Elite Barbarians as the big backbone to the deck to defend well and obviously to have great counter pushes. So this time he plays the anticipatory Tornado spell. Didn't really work there as there was nothing to target, but heck, he still got to the tower and got a second crown. The opponent at this point just throwing in the towel, throwing down a log and an Ice Wizard, and this, my friends, is going to be a 3 crown for Diegob. So guys, I'm wishing you a lot of success if you do try this deck out. It's a great deck. I think you'll really love it and enjoy playing it. It's a fun deck as well. So thanks again to Diegob. I'll leave his Twitter handle in the description below if you want to reach out and let him know, what type of success you're having with the deck, or maybe if you have some questions or about possible substitutions or anything like that, even strategy advice. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.